there is hardly any part of Nigeria where you don't have solid minerals, even in the south. But what I observe, whereas the federal government is ruthless with people who are doing illegal oil buckling, and they deploy JTF to deal with those involved in illegal buckling. When it comes to illegal mining of solid minerals, the federal government changes. It's like using different standards. And I'm very angry about that. Because if we have to fight, deploy army, even to kill, for anyone who is involved in illegal buckling of oil, and you deploy JTF, a combination of army, police, air force, everybody, why are we allowing illegal mining in many parts of the country that is going on? And they are being mined by retired generals, and we know them. Yes, we know them. Nobody can pretend doesn't know them. I did a letter to former President Buhari, because somebody I sent to go and conduct a primary somewhere reported back to me, a retired general of Northern Instruction, told me that, look, Adams, you are worried about the challenge of conducting primaries in Zamfara. The challenge you see is there is far more than that. And if it's not dealt with, Nigeria will not know peace in parts of the country. And this gold go all the way through all to Kaduna. And it up to, yeah, correct. And he told me that those involved in this illegal mining, they use choppers. They procure arms exactly the same way as our military were doing in the South. They give them arms. They use choppers to come and cut away the gold. And they take them out of this country and make billions of US dollars. And the federal government is not doing what it should be doing. I took this letter to the former president when I was national chairman of APC. And I said, call the general to give you more brief. In fact, what is happening, or what subsequently happened in that part of the country, was exactly what the general told me was going to happen. Because these guys have been weaponized by the illegal big men who deploy them, secure territories, and the weapon is meant to protect the Chinese and other foreigners who they actually employ to carry out the mining. And on occasion, they use the same weapon to carry out banditry, kidnapping, and all of the terrible things that are going on. Chief of Committee Chairman of Defense Staff, tell the defense I said so. That some retired military officers, army officers are involved in it. The day we can't tell the truth, this country cannot flourish. We can't change our, when it affects our people, we are at our best. We talk strong. Some other people appear to be above the law. That is what is going on with solid mineral. It is not that we don't know where it is. We have a whole survey of where we have what across the length and breadth of Nigeria. We also know, everybody complaining about certain people from certain nationalities. How they got here, even as we are talking now, they are doing those illegal mining. And those guys are getting richer when Nigeria State is getting poorer. But we carry the consequences of banditry, kidnapping, and that which these on illegal armed men, which they equip. Sir, who can afford to buy a chopper to land in an illegal mining site, cut away gold, return to Sediti, and then on the way to airport, bam, take them out of the country? This is happening.
I've come to reason this. Anyone who wants the emancipation of Africa, I say it again, anyone who is interested in the emancipation of the African people must support the release of Nnamdi Kanu, must support the restoration of Biafra, because the continued dominance of the Western powers and the Western rule over Africans, exploitation and indirect rule by the Western powers, we continue to subjugate Africans. We continue to enslave Africans. Of course, the slave trade has not been abruptly abolished, because if people cannot be allowed or given the power to govern themselves and decide their political future, then there is indirect slave trade. People are being held bound by certain vested powers. There is new slavery by these Western powers. They want to keep you underdeveloped. They want to keep you in the state of motionless and despair. They want to keep you stuck and struggling with frivolities, engaging with backbiting, fighting one another, while they have ample opportunity to exploit your human resources and, of course, your natural resources. The immigrations of African children to other parts of the world has left Africa deserted. We have the best brains, we have the best doctors, we have the best scientists, we have the best professionals in Africa, but unfortunately they are not contributing to the growth of African soil, African people. They are there serving as slave master, by the tax master, being subjected under several conditions, being given peanuts in exchange, while their resources is being harnessed in advancing the cause of the Western powers. They have mastered this art of slavery, an extension of the slave trade, where you can imagine under Nigeria in 5 years, more than 16 consultants, medical doctors left the source of Nigeria. Perhaps the same thing might happen in Ghana, in Cameroon, and the rest of them. You begin to ask, when will Africa grow? When will Africa get to understand that they have a role to play in their own liberation, in their own emancipation? You cannot continue this style or way of life. You cannot continue to play to the gallery. These people has made life miserable in Africa. Unfortunately, they are the ones that will make mockery of Africans, telling their own children, European children, American children, of course, Asian children, that Africans are poor. But to the contrary, they are the ones who impoverished Africa. The resources they use to run their own country and they use to take care of their own citizens is being exploited from Africans. Unfortunately, Africans are being enslaved in their own homes, in their own countries. Of course, most of the insecurities ravaging several African countries today is being sponsored by some Western powers because of their vested interest in the resources of the African state. They have carted away trillions of dollars on a yearly basis, and yet they will have the guts to tell us that Africans are poor. Africans are poor. Unfortunately, in return, they will extend just a peanut, a morsel of bread that falls from their table to the same Africans, and Africans will receive it with open hands. Unfortunately, we have the most daft leaders, people who have failed in providing leadership to the African people. You can imagine running to Africans, European nations, running to World Bank for grants and for aids, while the resources, the major resources they use to build their own economy is from Africa. How long shall we continue to wallow and dabble in this uncertainty? It is high time that Africans must rise. African children, male and female, must rise and unite and forge a common front in tackling the issue of misgovernance, providing leadership that will chart the way forward for all the rest of African people. To this end, Nnamdi Kanu has sacrificed himself. When you consider his antecedents and his position about the Pan-African, of course, state, he is a Pan-African. He is not only interested in the welfare or well-being of his own people, but his interest is in the liberation of Africa. Let Africa evolve. Africa is yet to manifest its potentials and to harness its full potentials, both in terms of human resources, in terms of human capital development, and exploring the world. Africans have several opportunities untapped, but yet being kept in the wheel of motionless and despair by some disgruntled elements found within the corridor of power, whose only interest is to satisfy their selfish interests and to gratify whatever interests or political interests at the expense of the African people. Just take it for instance, Nigeria is a well-endowed nation with human and natural resources. Yet, in Nigeria today, it's been described as the center of poverty. How could you reconcile that? A nation that is blessed by God, that is the 6th largest oil-producing country, the second in the world that has the highest deposits of gas, needless to talk about gold, plutonium, and other uranium and the rest of them in relative abundance, yet they are wallowing in abject poverty. What is the life expectancy of an average African people of Nigeria as today? You can imagine Nigeria coming far behind Niger Republic. It's quite laughable and very disturbing. This is the reason that informed the Niger young military personnel to say, no, we must end this Western democracy that has been a tool of exploitation by the Western powers against their own people. You can imagine in less than 6 months they have been able to fix and pay off all their foreign debts, and they are doing well for themselves. Africa must look beyond sentiments, beyond tribal, religious, and ethnic lines, and see the holistic picture of African revolution. Africa must revolve and evolve in order for Africans to take their place in the Community of Nations. Africans are being relegated, are being insulted, are being used, and of course intimidated by affront. So it is time that Africans must realize that they are the mother of creation, and the creation started from here. Civilization, the cradle of civilization. But what has suddenly happened? That the technology and the entire resources and the brain has been trained up. It is time to support the release of Nnamdi Kanu, who has canvassed for Pan-African states. Let Africa be liberated. Let Africa get their freedom. I mean, the true freedom they deserve, not being caged by the Western powers. Unfortunately, they are using, of course, the so-called leaders as a willing tool to continue to subjugate